A millionaire CEO saw a poor nurse sleeping at a bus stop. What he did the next day shocked everyone. It was past midnight in the pouring rain. The streets of downtown Chicago were nearly deserted, except for one dimly lit bus stop where a young woman, soaked and shivering in her scrubs, sat with her head against her duffel bag. Jackson Hale, the 42-year-old tech millionaire and CEO of HaleMed Systems, was being driven home in his sleek black Tesla after a late investor dinner. As they waited at a red light, he glanced out the tinted window and saw her curled up, exhausted, trying to shield herself with an old sweater. "Pull over," Jackson said abruptly. His driver hesitated. "Sir, now." He stepped out with an umbrella and walked toward her. She stirred, startled. Her badge read, "Alicia Mendez, RN." "I'm sorry," she said, standing up quickly. "I'll move. You're fine," Jackson interrupted gently. "Are you okay?" She blinked at him, confused and wary. "Just waiting for the next bus. Got off my shift at the county hospital, 12 hours, missed the last one. Why not Uber or taxi?" She gave him a tired smile. "Can't afford that luxury on nurse pay. Rent's due." Jackson nodded slowly. He was quiet for a moment, then handed her his card. "Please take the car. My driver will get you home. No strings. I can't just say yes. One nurse helped save my mother's life last year. You all don't get the credit or comfort you deserve." She reluctantly accepted. The next day at 9 a.m., Alicia walked into County General, still unsure if the night had been a dream. But everything changed by noon. A flurry of hospital staff buzzed around as cameras and reporters entered the building. Then came the big news. Jackson Hale had just donated $10 million to the hospital's nursing department with a specific initiative to fund housing stipends, transit allowances, and mental health support for overworked nurses. The donation included a private message to Alicia M., whose strength humbled me. Alicia, stunned, was asked to meet with Jackson in person. When she entered the boardroom, he stood up and offered a warm smile. "I hope you slept better last night." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because people like you hold this world together. And I was too rich to see it until now." From that day forward, Alicia became the face of the Hale Nurse Initiative, and her story sparked a national movement. And every night after her shift, she never had to sleep at a bus stop again. Alicia's life didn't change overnight just because of the cameras or the headlines. It changed because someone finally saw her. A deeper conversation after the press left. Jackson invited Alicia to join him for coffee in a quiet rooftop garden above the hospital away from the noise. "I didn't just donate for charity," he said, stirring his drink. "I've been working in healthcare tech for over a decade, but I've never had to work a hospital floor, never missed a bus, never skipped meals to cover a shift." Alicia smiled gently. "Most of us never expected recognition. We just wanted to help people." Jackson leaned forward. "You inspired something in me, and I want to do more. Would you consider coming on board as an advisor to my company? I want to redesign everything through the eyes of people who actually know what happens on the front line." Her eyes widened. I'm just a nurse." "No. You're the nurse who reminded me what this entire system is supposed to serve human beings." The offer within a week, Alicia found herself in a position she had never dreamed of. Jackson flew her to San Francisco in a private jet to tour HaleMed's innovation hub. There, she met engineers, policy strategists, and designers who were shocked at how quickly she pinpointed flaws in their patient tracking systems and mobile interfaces. "You're telling me nurses don't have time to use this?" one lead developer asked, baffled. Alicia laughed. "You ever try using that while helping a patient who's vomiting and crashing at the same time? We're not coding, we're surviving." Jackson stood in the back, arms crossed, smiling. By the end of the week, she was offered a role, Director of Clinical Insight, with full freedom to stay part-time at her hospital, a six-figure salary, a furnished apartment near her work, and something even more meaningful, respect. The ripple effect. Alicia's story went viral. Talk shows, podcasts, health policy forums, nurses across the country began sharing their hope. Hospitals reached out to HaleMed to partner on improving tools and working conditions. More donations poured in from other CEOs, embarrassed into action. The media called it the nurse renaissance. And every time Alicia spoke, she stayed humble. "I didn't ask to be noticed. I didn't do anything special. I was just tired and doing my job." 1 year later, Alicia walked through the same bus stop where it all began, only this time in a crisp, navy blue blazer with the HaleMed logo on the pocket. She wasn't waiting for a bus. She had returned to place a plaque. "To the ones who wait in silence, you are seen." Behind her, Jackson stepped forward quietly. "You ready?" She turned and smiled. "Let's go fix healthcare." And together they did. Life had become a whirlwind. Boardroom meetings, hospital roundtables, keynote speaking events. But somehow, amidst the press and praise, she stayed grounded. Every Friday, she still volunteered for night shifts at County General. She'd hand out juice boxes in the pediatric ward, comfort anxious families, and train new nurses. And every now and then, she'd glance out the window at the same bench where it all started. Meanwhile, Jackson Hale changed too. He used to be the type who ran on espresso and ego. But Alicia's presence softened something in him. He started showing up at hospitals not for press, but to listen, really listen, to janitors, medics, nurses, on break. He no longer wanted to run a company, he wanted to lead a mission. Their work relationship deepened. So did their trust. A quiet dinner one evening, after a joint panel at a medical tech summit in Boston, Jackson invited Alicia to a quiet Italian restaurant by the harbor. They sat across from each other, the candlelight reflecting in the wine glasses. Alicia, no longer in scrubs, looked elegant in a soft blue dress. Jackson, though still the CEO of a billion-dollar company, looked more human, less guarded, more real. He studied her for a long moment. You know, I used to think I knew what impact meant, and now, he smiled softly. Now I think it's a nurse in worn-out sneakers giving up her bus fare to buy coffee for a patient's family. She laughed. I still wear those sneakers. He leaned in. I noticed. There was a pause. Not awkward, just filled with something unspoken. Something real. I'm glad I stopped that night, he said finally. Not just for the donation, not for the headlines, but because I found someone who reminded me who I want to be. Alicia blinked, unsure if this was still just work or something else. They didn't rush it. There were no tabloid-worthy moments or grand gestures. But there were signs, late-night texts, coffees brought to each other's desks, quiet walks after hospital visits. Then, one morning, Alicia arrived at the apartment Jackson had arranged for her. A key sat on the table beside a note. You changed, my company? You changed lives. You changed me. If you ever want to change the view from your window, I'd like you to have this place not as an employee, but as someone who belongs here. She stared at the key, then called him. You know I can't be bought, right? I know. That's what makes you priceless. 2 years later, at a conference in Geneva, a new healthcare platform called Nursalin was unveiled, co-designed by Alicia Mendez and Jackson Hale. It revolutionized nurse scheduling, real-time feedback, and frontline mental health support. It spread globally in months. But the true highlight wasn't the tech, that it was when Jackson introduced Alicia as his co-founder. And then, to the world's surprise, held up her hand and said, "And my fiancé." The audience erupted, but Alicia just turned to him, smiling with the same spark she had the night he first handed her his card in the rain. You sure you're ready to marry a night shift nurse? She teased. I'd wait at every bus stop in the world for you, he said.